The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Greetings again, boys and ghouls, as the Brandon Peters Spook Show continues its carousel of horror through the first season of Tales from the Crypt. Joining me today for the tale of Only Sin Deep is writer Danielle Sepulveres.
Hello to all you boys and ghouls.
Yes. Oh, here we are with the fourth episode of season 1. But Danielle, we're roughly from the same, we're pretty much from the same generation. Was Tales from the Crypt a big thing for you when you were growing up?
Yes, it was. So there was a thing in my house where if you stayed up late to watch TV, no one was kind of monitoring what you were watching. And I had a bevy of shows that I like to watch late at night. And Tales from the Crypt was one of them because I think it was on Fox, right? It came on Fox late at night.
It was HBO, and then there was
HBO first, right?
Syndicate. Yeah. It did syndicate in some other networks as well.
Okay,
and that's where I started catching it more, was that.
Okay, I think that's what I think. Like, I originally saw some of it on HBO, and then later on I saw it late night on one of the networks that would play it like late at night. Also, my other I digress, but my other late night shows were Silk Stockings on USA.
Yeah, I remember Silk Stockings. Yes.
And there's also it was like the All Night Slumber Party or something on USA
Up All Night.
USA Up All Night. With was it Rhonda
on Friday nights and Gilbert Gottfried on Saturdays.
Yes,
I religiously watched that.
Mm-hmm. Love that. So that was part of my late night repertoire. And but Tales from the Crypt I loved because it fit into my whole. I love Twilight Zone also, and so I kind of love little morality plays that are all creepy and supernatural,
right?
And Tales from the Crypt was more mean-spirited than Twilight Zone.
True.
So it was just, not that there weren't evil things that happened in Twilight Zone episodes, but in Tales from the Crypt, it was often, even though there was a supernatural aspect, it was also very often your own humanity that was your downfall.
Right.
Your own.
Right. And it was a big thing too, because it was on HBO. So you got if they were gonna kill somebody, you were gonna see blood. If people were gonna get naked, there was that. So it had those aspects to make it more. And we have a more adult one that we're talking about too.
Yes.
Because the first one of these was you had the mental or the prison, the executioner guy, and then you had the little slasher one, stuff like that. But then some of the more adult stuff springs up later in the season here. But yeah, Tales from the Crypt was one, and the kids at school, did you see Tales from the Crypt? Because I think it was like at an age for us where we were like maybe supposedly too young for it, but
totally
you had to sneak it in. And like the USA Up All Night, so like USA Up All Night was great because for me, like, it was they showed the Friday the 13th would be on there. They'd show Nightmare on Elm Street, but then there'd be the movies where I'm like, they're gonna slip up and show something nudity wise. I know it. They never did, but they would show the Andy Sedaris action movies on there. And
and those weird B movies. Like there was a movie with a guy who looks sort of like Tom Hanks. I remember I looked him up years later, and it turns out he's like Tom Hanks's brother, Jim Hanks or something.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in some movie with I don't know. It's like unless maybe I'm conflating, because there's also one with like killer vegetables. but that might not be the same one actually.
Oh, okay.
That might be a different movie. But I just remember one with him where he plays this guy that these girls are trying to take his virginity.
Oh,
And
sounds familiar.
something like Beach Bunny something something, but then there's also the one with the killer vegetables, but maybe that's not the same movie. I don't know. They were so weird, those movies.
They were, and then there was that John Cusack, like Hot Pursuit. Was that the John Cusack movie they showed all the time?
They used to show One Crazy Summer.
Crazy Summer.
Right?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that was on there. Yeah. Gosh.
But also maybe Hot Pursuit too. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look that up now. Oh my God, yeah. But yeah, Tales from the Crypt was same thing. Like finding someone else who stayed up to watch it was this big find, because you're like, oh my God, someone else stays up as late as I do and watches the show. And it wasn't, I feel like it wasn't popular amongst my age group back then. But also neither was a lot of the stuff I like to watch. Like people didn't watch Twilight Zone back then in my age group either.
I was uncool. I watched like Nick at Night all the time and watching old stuff like it was new.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I loved I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah, My Three Sons, like all that lineup. That's what I was like, get away with cartoons. I want that. I watched Get Smart. Like I grew up watching that all the time.
I loved Get Smart. I think that's why I didn't love the movie, because the movie I should have watched the movie like just like not thinking of the show, because the show was wasn't serious. I mean, Dragnet was the serious one, and Get Smart was the funny one. But I think because the TV show Get Smart, I like fell in love with those characters. And then, not that I didn't like Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway, but I was so entrenched in who the original Get Smart people were. I was like, oh, I don't know, this movie doesn't really get the vibe of that show exactly.
Well, it's Mel Brooks's humor, and Don Adams is a unique person. Like it's hard to like. Steve Carell's a nice choice to try to do that, but yeah, it just kind of, I don't know. It was okay, but it felt like a little bit out of step with that show.
Yes, exactly. Very good people involved. It just didn't quite hit the right notes for me. But that happens when you remake things, reboot things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
I think that might have been the last movie I saw in Mann's Chinese Theater before I moved.
Really?
I think it might have been Get Smart. It was that summer. Can't remember, but woohoo! What a way to go on out there.
But I did love that Anne Hathaway was Agent 99, because I wanted to be Agent 99 so bad.
Oh, Max. Yeah, I had a crush on Barbara Feldon. Like I'm a weirdo. Like, so this is way off topic here, but it's fun. Like my crushes, like when I was growing up, were all these old women, because I was watching these old shows. Like one of my first big crushes was Diana Rigg, because I watched Avengers reruns on A&E.
Yeah.
So I was like, Diana Rigg's and she was like 50 when I was 50, 60 when I was watching them. I was like, oh, Barbara Feldon was one of like, Julie Newmar. Huge crushes like that, and not realizing, there's no chance.
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, my mom fed me a steady diet of Cary Grant movies, so I just was bonkers in love with Cary Grant. But I mean, he was dead already, so
dead and didn't like women, so it really wasn't going to work out for you.
Definitely not.
So anyway, so that excited to talk about Crypt. You're going to be talking about here Only a Sin, which is directed by Howard Deutsch, written by Fred Decker, and starring Leah Thompson, Britt Leach, Brett Cullen, and Pamela DePella, which that's like just people that's like, oh crap, that's a really writer, director, star, just and it's about a young, self-obsessed prostitute who sells her look to a voodoo dabbling pawnbroker so that she can use the money in order to snag a rich bachelor. But she soon regrets it 4 months later when her own face begins to shockingly and unexpectedly age at an accelerated rate. So like I mentioned, Howard Deutsch, director of Pretty in Pink, Some Kind of Wonderful, Great Outdoors. He would do the Melrose Place pilot 3 years after this.
Wow.
Leah Thompson's husband. Leah Thompson, we all know her. She's in the middle of doing Back to the Future 2 and 3 here. And then Fred Decker, the writer-director of the superior to the Goonies Monster Squad.
Love the Monster Squad. Wolfman's got nards.
Wolfman's got nards. Night of the Creeps. He did that. He wrote House 2, which has the best subtitle of all time. House 2, The Second Story. So brilliant.
So good.
And then he'd go on to write 5 of these Tales of the Crypts episode, direct 1 season 2 episode. But yeah, that's kind of the talent pool. We got the big talent.
It's so funny because Leah Thompson is because from the movies that you know her from, Back to the Future and what is it? Some Kind of Wonderful, right? Is the one that she's in. And she's gorgeous and she's nice. And then she plays this part in this Tales from the Crypt where she's a pretty terrible person.
Right.
And not because she's a prostitute, just because she kills people.
Yeah. I think that's like an overlooked, like an underlooked thing here. It's like she's a murderer. Like
she's a murderer.
2 people.
She just starts killing people and it's like whatever. But it's so funny to me because she always comes across as such a California girl in Back to the Future and in Some Kind of Wonderful as this like shiny face, like gorgeous hair, like great figure and great clothes. And then in this Tales from the Crypt, it's so obvious they're trying to play it for New York, and it's definitely not. Yeah.
What gave you the clue? What gave you a clue there?
I just rewatching it, I was dying because even just like the shot at the end where they're on the street corner, that's so obviously LA and or studio. Like, I mean, I think it's actually LA, not a studio lot, but it's definitely made to look like New York, but they don't even have like people crossing the street normally the way people in New York would. It's literally just like a bunch of people standing on a corner and then they all start to move. And then like on the other corner is a bunch of people and then they all start to move. And
it's not like
no. And exactly. That's New York is this constantly. And instead it was like, it was so funny to me.
It's like downtown Kansas City type movement. Yeah.
So that made me laugh a lot. But also just her putting on like the New York accent, like, oh yeah, like what you just did, like, oh yeah, like she's it's so much.
It's almost like you asked her, like, Sylvester Stallone, do that.
Yes.
And she breaks out of it too a lot. Like
she does. Like she comes in at me, maybe I'm just playing hard to get, and then she's like, oh, ha ha ha, like 2 seconds later. It's so funny.
Yeah, they should just let her be her, but there's a choice made here that I'm just like, oh,
yeah. I know. That's when she shoots the pimp, which is her first murder, and she's like, I'm so sorry. Maybe we can work together. Your sales just business.
It was off and on and not good. Not good when she had it. And like she did that accent in like, it's like the part when she in Back to the Future 2, when she's the alternate 85 Lorraine. Yeah. She's like, you want him, you can have him.
Yes.
Or something,
God, yes.
That's exactly what I was drawn
to. You paid for him.
Yeah. It's not her, I wouldn't say her finest hour, which I like Back to the Future too. Like when she got old at the end, when she had like the press, I'm like, we're kind of used to seeing her getting aged up with makeup at this point. That's her thing. That's almost. True.
That's a really good point. But you're right. Oh my God, I didn't even think about the voice from Back to the Future 2, because and then it turns into a little more whatever they call it, where she's like, when she's yelling at Biff and then he leaves and then she's like, Biff is right. He's right. He does take good care of us.
He's right. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my God, you just nailed it. That was exactly it.
Yeah, Marty. Oh gosh.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah, my Leah Thompson impersonation tour will begin this spring.
I'm buying a ticket.
There we go. I'll be it's Some Kind of Terrible. The Brandon Peters performs as
Some Kind of Terrible.
Right. Which I recently finally saw that movie for the first time. Came out on Blu-ray this year. for the first time, and I had reviewed
Oh,
it, and
wow.
it's an interesting movie. I don't think it worked quite well, but
Hmm.
have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's pretty in pink again,
It
pretty
is.
much, except that Eric Stoltz is Molly
Oh,
Ringwald.
wait, I'm wrong. I have seen that one. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
For some reason, I forget. I feel like I was thinking of a different one. But yes, no, I've seen that. Yes. And Mary Stuart Masterson
Yep.
is the best friend.
She's
and
Ducky. Yeah.
yeah, she's Ducky, and she's in love with him. And it's
Mhm.
so like, it's just so funny when you rewatch it, and like the scene where they practice kissing, and
Mhm.
you're like, Friends never did this. Nobody ever did this. This is not how
I had plenty of,
Friends.
I had a lot of female friends in high school and stuff. It didn't happen
It didn't happen. I mean,
ever.
it's
Ever.
like, it's a total fantasy. um and then also that's what I love about 80s movies too, is like people all of a sudden come to the realization, no, I've been in love with you all this time,
What?
when in reality it's always like 6 months to a year to 2 years later when you're over that person, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh my god, I've been so stupid all this time, it was really you. And you're like, yeah, just, yeah, not there anymore, sorry pal.
There's the boat. There goes sailing. Yeah.
You missed it.
Not coming back to shore. Yeah.
No.
So this one, like, yeah, it's a voodoo tale because she goes to the voodoo pawnbroker. There's always that tricky pawnbroker
Oh yeah.
in New York, I guess. That's where
Mhm.
that always happens. And he's taking molds of people, and these molds will bring his wife back to life.
It's
Or
That's the thing I was never quite sure of, because then rewatching it, I was remember, because when she first goes into the pawn shop, and oh my, can we talk about the gum chewing?
Yep.
Like the constant gum chewing. Even when she's getting a facial, she's chewing
Yep.
gum while she's getting a facial. That doesn't
It's
happen.
New York.
It's
Come
New
on.
York.
It's New York. We chew gum. We
Yeah.
Stromboli's, down the street. Yeah.
When that other woman comes in with the veil on and is
Mhm.
yelling at him and smashes things and leaves sobbing, and that's obviously the foreshadowing of like what's to come.
Right.
For a second I'm like, wait a second, I sort of forget how this one goes. Is that her from the future coming
It
in?
plays like a time
Like,
travel movie.
yeah,
I had that in my notes. Yeah.
yes, it plays a little bit like that, where it's like, because then when she comes back, um I was wondering if, like, because there's someone in the shop and you're like, oh, does she see herself in the shop and realize
Mhm.
it's herself making the mistake again, or whatever it is. But then also, yeah, like, it doesn't seem like his wife is alive. It just seems like he gave her a face again, and
Something.
she's still dead in the casket, but she looks beautiful and young again. And it's like, but did you bring her back to life, or did you just make her not look like a skeleton? Because I don't
Right.
understand what's the point then, if you can't actually be with her, then you're just like, you just want to look at her. I don't, what.
I think they probably intended us not to be thinking about it like this,
Probably not.
30 years later or so. And like, no, you're supposed to shut it off and go straight to Red Shoe Diaries. That's what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to stop thinking about it. No, but yeah, I was like really weird. The wife stuff was like really wishy. Like I felt like that would be more of a presence, or she would confront the wife, do something.
Yeah,
But
right. And then also because then as I was getting to the end, I'm like, oh wait, I remember she takes her face and run, because like now she's like a murderer and
Mhm.
she's wanted by the police. So
that's
she
some
doesn't.
great that's a great
That
reveal
Yes,
there. Yeah.
that is a great twist. And you know what it reminds me of? Did you ever watch Nip Tuck?
No, I did not watch Nip Tuck.
Okay,
Nip
so
Tuck.
Nip Tuck, it's a show. I can't remember how many seasons it went, maybe like 5 or 6,
Mhm.
because it went off the rails at a certain point, and so
Mm.
I feel like I kind of wasn't watching anymore. But season 1 and season 2 of Nip Tuck are, let me tell you,
I've heard they're great. Yeah.
some of the best television ever. Um, and so I can't remember now if it's season 1 or season 2, but for a season finale, they did this fucking brilliant thing, where they had gotten sort of roped into like a drug trafficking situation
Mhm.
by a drug kingpin who knew that they had disposed of a dead body, and was like blackmailing them, the plastic surgeon. He's
Okay.
like blackmailing them over this, and he's like, I have proof, I have this, like whatever, like I can go to the cops and turn you in at any time, so you need to do my bidding. And his bidding was that he was transporting like liquid heroin in breast implants.
Oh.
So he was bringing these girls to him, and they were doing the surgery to remove the implants and then giving the heroin to him so he could sell it, whatever, make his money. And so this is going on for a while. They're like exhausted, they're miserable, they're, doing lots of illegal shit, and they don't know how to get out of it. And so the drug guy comes to see them, and because there's some heat on him, and he's worried about getting arrested, he has to like flee the country. But because he's on like the hot list of top 10 most wanted, whatever, people are looking for him at like every border, every airport, every port, whatever. So he tells them he wants them to change his face, plastic surgery wise.
Right.
And so they do it. And then the second to last scene of the episode is him walking through the airport free and clear, thinking like he has a completely brand new face. He's like walking with his bag, but then like someone in security sees him, like says something into a walkie, then someone says something to someone else, and then all of a sudden men start following him, and he's like looking around, he's like, could be me, like I've got a new face.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point he gets like tackled, and there's like canine dogs, and it's a whole thing. And it turns out they gave him a face of a different fugitive who was wanted. And and so he was basically going to prison for somebody else's crimes that they made him look exactly like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the very end of the episode is the two of them like back at the office, like smiling with a new patient, like everything's back to normal. And it's such like a great twist.
Yeah.
And to like what they were going through for like so many episodes of like, how are they going to get out of this? Like they can't go to prison, like they can't go turn themselves in because they'll go to jail for like what they did. And it was me. Somebody got killed in their office. They didn't kill someone. Someone got killed in their office, and they didn't know what to do. So they just like brought the body to a swamp and let the alligators have it, because the show takes place in Florida. So
of course.
But that came to mind a little bit while I was rewatching this. But then I was thinking too, because when she takes the mold of her face, I'm like, what does she think is going to happen? Like it's gone. Like it went to the woman. Like, and also it's like, why does it take 4 months? Like, what is the process?
Yeah.
It takes 4 months. That's so weird. And then he keeps all of them. And he keeps them all in that case. So, because at first I was like, wait, is she going to take someone else's face and try to like put someone else's face back on herself? But then how could she? Because it was already used to make the woman youthful and young. I don't know. Right. It's just, I have so many questions, but also I love the episode so much.
Oh, it's fun. It's goofy. These are based off a comic book. They're very comic book logic. And I surrender myself to things. So I'm just like, okay, as long as your rules are a little weird, but I'm enjoying this ride. It's pretty fun. The 4 months, I think it's just like a joke on pawn shop things maybe. And everybody forgets that they have it there, and that happens. I do think it's funny, like she murders the pimp guy at the beginning. No, she's fine. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing happens.
She murders the white guy, the white rich guy.
Yeah.
Immediate, like we have all this stuff, and they don't even. There's not even the pimp's nothing.
There's a headline in the newspaper like 8 minutes later.
Right. Yeah.
With her photo
and
with her photo. Like, it's just, and that, I mean, I guess like the whole point was that she was just like so overwrought that's why she was doing this. But when she was collecting all of the stuff for the money before he walks in, before Ronnie comes home and like walks in and is like, who are you? When she takes the vase and like throws it against the mirror, I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
there's a lot of weird aggression.
Because it's like, if you truly think you can give him this $100,000 and get your face back, like, don't you want to come back to your life here? Like, like, why are you wrecking it? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why? And you at least try the voodoo thing on him. Like, hey, I went to this pawn shop.
Yeah,
he wants 100,000 now.
Yeah, just be like, come with me to get my face back. He's gonna want your face back too.
That's. But she's just, I mean, reckless. I mean, at the beginning, we see her murdering, taking jewelry, trying to go to the pawn, and here she is again, murdering, taking jewelry. Her stakes got bigger.
Yes.
With it. And
it's And it is very appropriate that it's her friend at the end who doesn't recognize her, and
Hmm.
it's like, get out of the street, bitch.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I do appreciate, like, I watching these, like, it's pretty telling that they have such a big story, well-rounded, good characters that I understand from top to bottom, really well done, under 27 minutes. They
Yeah.
would stretch this thing to a 50
Oh
nowadays,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
unnecessary.
It's
Like,
totally, it was perfect as 27 minutes. Same with, like, that's what I think about Twilight Zone
mhm,
episodes all the time when I rewatch them, and I'm like, this is perfect. Like,
yeah,
there's that season where they go to hour long for a
mhm,
while,
and then they
and
went right back to 27,
mhm,
yeah.
yeah, they did. Um, but yeah, it's funny too because there's the point where she's at the dermatologist and she's like, I'm 21 years old.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, no, no.
Yeah,
No. I'm like, I mean, no.
we bought you as 18 in 1985, okay?
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's because it's the 90s, right? Tales from the Crypt.
92 is the first
92.
season.
Okay, yeah,
I
early
believe it's
90s. Yeah.
92. Yeah.
Yeah.
92,
So
or
yeah,
was it 80? No, it was 89
it was
actually.
89. Okay, yeah.
89, yeah.
Okay. All right, but still, yeah, she looks late 20s. She
Mhm.
looks at least like, I mean, I honestly would have pegged her at 30 more, um but yeah, then when they're like, I'm 21 years old.
She's hit the streets hard. She's aging
Yeah.
fast. Who knows what she's
Yeah.
doing? And there's a young Brett Cullen plays the rich beau of hers, which I was like, oh crap. He
Yes.
was he was in things before he was in a lot. Like his, I think the first time I noted him was Lost when he was on that, and that's way
That's
after this.
that's way after.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has such a good 80s look though for it, that like Playboy hair. And
Yeah.
also that's the funny thing too, is like the way she talks so street tough and he's so
Mhm.
refined and he's just like, "Oh, so what are you doing at my party?" And she's like, "Maybe I'm playing hard to get."
Yeah. And they say having that thing while that woman he's with is just like
I know. He's just,
watching from. She doesn't even have a line of dialogue, I don't think.
I
The
know,
whole
no.
time, just
She's just featured background.
yeah, just
Yep.
like I thought there was gonna be a confrontation, or maybe that woman would find out about the voodoo, something like that. But
Yeah.
I guess
Right?
27 minutes they don't have time. But that's
Mm,
usually where a story like this would
yeah.
go. I'm happy, it doesn't quite go there. But I mean, yeah, like so this one's very adult. Like there's prostitute, sex, money, murder. It's like, look, all we can do on
Yeah.
HBO.
Mhm.
Saturday, it was it Saturday nights? I can't remember what night they did Tales from the
I
Crypt.
think it was it Friday or Saturday? Maybe I want to say Saturday,
Yeah.
but maybe I'm wrong. Um, but yeah, it's, oh god, it's so funny. And also, I think just because I was looking at it with today's mindset, because he
Hmm.
gives her the $10,000 and she spends it on all these, I'm like, oh man, that 10,000's gone
Yep.
already. That's
Yep.
gone.
It's gone. You whoop. No, no. Yeah, that's too funny. And you mentioned Twilight Zone a few times. This ending reminded me of a take on the classic Burgess Meredith one where he's all alone after the bomb in the glasses, and it kind
Mhm.
of pans out. It kind of felt reminiscent of that. Granted, there's two different things going on there, but
Yeah.
when she
Time enough
shatters,
at last.
time
Yeah.
enough at
No.
last. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Like where you think you finally got everything you wanted, and then, nope. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
um
no.
which that one is so sad too because everyone's so mean to him
Mm-hmm.
throughout it. Like his wife is a terrible human being and doesn't want him to read books, and
Stop
I mean,
reading.
granted he shouldn't be reading while he's working at work, but still, like, everyone's just so mean to him for no reason.
Right. Yeah. Just
And everyone touts that one as one of the best.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's a great one, but I like the one because he's in a handful
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Twilight
He did
episodes.
quite a few.
I like the one that he's in. I think it's the Obsolete Man,
Mm-hmm.
where he's on trial for being obsolete. For, I think he's like, because he's a librarian or something, and but he gets to pick the method of his execution, and he wants to be in this room, and like I think like a bomb will go off and kill him like in his room, surrounded by his
Yes.
books
Yeah.
and
Yes.
whatever.
Hmm.
And but he gets the prosecutor guy, to come in and see him, and gets basically kind of gets him to admit that he's obsolete in front of all the people that are watching, because it's like a live execution.
Yeah.
And so that then when after he dies, that guy ends up on trial, and they're like, we find you obsolete and we condemn you to death. And like he's just like basically as a, you know, this is, see, you were so quick to
Hmm.
condemn me to death, and now you're gonna die too.
Right. Yeah. Oh gosh, those are so good. Oh, good old school horror anthology stuff.
Yes, I love it.
I do dig it. Did you enjoy the new Twilight Zone? I know we're talking about Tales from the Crypt, but just
I am, you know what? I'm so bad, and I haven't watched it yet. I
Mm.
watched one episode. I'm trying to think which is the one that I watched.
I watched the first season, but I did not watch the
the
second.
second. I
Season.
watched like one, because the problem, I don't have CBS All Access.
It's
and
called
so-
Paramount Plus now.
Oh, sorry, now it's
Right.
Paramount Plus.
Yeah, it's Paramount Plus.
Yes, Paramount Plus. But when it first came out, someone in my family had CBS All Access, so I was at their house and I watched an episode,
Mhm.
and then that was it. And I always meant to be like, what's your login, so I could watch more. And then I just
Mhm.
honestly, it's one of those things that I just like never got around to. But it's one of those high on my list. Gonna watch it at some point.
Right. Well, it's
but-
canceled now. You've
yes,
got time.
I
So.
know, which is,
Yeah.
but what's the funny thing about it too is like the original ran for so many seasons, and that
Mhm.
was also back when you had like 30 something episodes a season,
Right, yeah.
not like now. And when they tried rebooting it, this was like the third reboot.
Yeah,
Third,
they did they brought back in the 80s.
in the 80s, and then again in the 90s.
And they did a movie in the 80s.
Yes, they did the movie,
Yeah.
the terribly doomed movie with John Landis.
People died. Yep.
And they tried something in the 90s, like kind of like an updated, which didn't do well.
They did a lot of radio plays too.
Yeah.
For a while in the OOs, was it, or late 90s, something like that.
Yeah.
But like they tried to bring Tales from the Crypt back recently. Like M. Night Shyamalan got so far, and then it just
died
on his face. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, like, and then there's certain things. I mean, we're always rebooting everything and redoing everything, and I think everything probably can potentially be redone at some point. But sometimes I think it's more, sometimes that's not the right time for it, or maybe the right people don't get cast in it, or just like something goes wrong in the planning, and then it's just like, oh, it's not as good as the original. And it's like, it's probably not as good as the original, but also it could be, but maybe some of the ingredients coming together aren't quite the right fit to make it the new version it could be.
Right. I don't know if some of it, like with the new one, some of it like, and I've seen complaints and stuff, like a lot of it, the social commentary was a bit on the nose compared to what it used to be. But and then I wonder too, is I was one of these, like when it's good political or something like that with things, but I'm like, is it that, or is it because you watched it as a kid and didn't recognize it? Now you're an adult and you identified this stuff. Like if you would have been an adult back then, would you have immediately identified things like you did now? Like I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, in the old ones, a lot of commentary that's like anti-war. I mean, there's a lot of just people being punished for being Nazis, which is awesome.
Right.
We could always have more of that.
All the time.
And people being punished for being terrible human beings. And then there's also there's also some heartfelt episodes, like there's that Christmas one where that like the old homeless decrepit man becomes actual Santa Claus in the episode, and that's very sweet. And and I'm trying to think, because there's not that many heartfelt ones, but
they
there
crept in there time to time.
Yeah, there's like the alien guy who takes the body of like an old man, and there's like a little girl in leg braces, and he sort of like keeps an eye on her because she can't play with the other kids, and then he takes her home to his planet where he's like a royal king.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And she gets to be a princess or something, and that's because she lives with like an abusive aunt who is mean to her and like knocked her down the stairs or something to that effect. Yeah, well, right. And then there's Talkie Tina, who gets rid of an abusive stepfather.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't think Tales of the Crypt ever got genuine.
No, I don't
No.
think so.
All
No.
about that mean Crypt keeper getting mean.
Yes,
Keeping it mean.
one of my favorite Tales from the Crypt episodes, and I cannot remember what season it was, but it was the one with John Lovitz, where I feel like it was a later one.
Okay.
Where he's always going on auditions with a much better looking guy, and the better looking guy is always getting the parts, and they both show up at this audition for Hamlet. And he and the guy is like, kind of arrogant, and it's just like, I don't even know why you bothered coming, like, you're not going to get this part. And then right before he's about to go in for the audition, he like looks at the sides and he's like, wait, I'm reading what? And then John Lovitz like attacks him and kills him.
Oh
yeah, and like just
remember
stuffs the
that.
body wherever. So like he goes into audition and then realizes they're not at an actual theater, they're at an asylum where the patients have killed everyone who runs it and have taken over, and they're doing a production of Hamlet, and they're not casting for the part of Hamlet, they're casting for the part of what's his face where that Hamlet holds the skull of.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And so they want someone cast so they can kill him and use his skull in the play. And so like the end of the episode is them holding John Lovitz's presumably bloody skull in the throat, and they're all like clapping and applauding the model.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Really?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, I feel bad that I spoiled it.
No, I'll still, if it's executed well and done fun, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, it is. It's a good time. Like I remember my brother and I were watching it. We were like, no way.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. But it was great having you here. Stop by during this Tales from the Crypt run here. Appreciate it. Always love having you on, and you'll be back sooner than later, of course. Of course, let people know where they can keep up with you and what you're up to lately.
Well, mostly on Twitter with my nonsensical tweets, which you can find at Elsep, ELLESEP. Also on Instagram at Danielle Sep, but I don't know, I'm not that interesting there unless you just want to see pictures of my dog, who is very interesting, I swear, but that's really all I post there is my dog Brandy. And I did post some cute ones because she was in a Halloween dog parade this past weekend, which she did not win, which I'm very salty about. But a little Chihuahua dressed like a lobster won. But it was a very cute Chihuahua lobster, I will say that. But yeah, Brandy was a little showgirl, and she had sequins and feathers and a little hat, and she did not win. So she's been wallowing. She's deep in the kibble. I don't know what to do about it.
Those little ones always ruin the day. I had a Halloween costume contest the last Halloween when we were able to have them without worrying about getting people sick. I had a pretty awesome Buffalo Bill outfit going on. I lost to little Freddie Mercury.
What a travesty.
I wore a bodysuit. I had screen accurate piercings and tattoos, and yeah.
That's terrible. You know what my brother did as a Halloween costume quite a few years ago, but he won first place in his office. He went as Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh wow!
And like just carried like a fake dead body around all day, and he attached it to himself so he could like lift the arm, whatever. There's a video on somebody's computer in my family where he goes to my parents' house to like try it out for them, and the dog is like losing his shit, like, because he's like, what is this flopping appendage that's hanging on to my to my person?
What is this?
Yeah. Too funny.
I'm going to kill him. He's already dead. Don't worry.
He's already dead.
All right. Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brand4KUHD. You hear that all week. Written work at WhySoBlue.com. Tomorrow, Pacing Pete of the Halloween Never Dies podcast steps on board for Lover Come Hack to Me. Until then, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.